Big news is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked. There was all kinds of rumours they were going to wait until the stock exchange opened tomorrow morning, but it looks like they've obviously made the decision now. A massive decision, but obviously we could see it coming. Lots of swirling rumours and a heavy defeat away to Watford. Only Watford's second home win of the season kind of was the final nail in the coffin for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Sad, really, because the club have, which is what happens when great ex-players go back to manage clubs. There's always a sadness mark, isn't there, when they have to sack somebody that they can see is one of their own.
What you've just described is probably the reason that it's happened now rather than, you know, ages ago, I'd say weeks or possibly months, because, of course, this was a man who was brought in as a fan favourite to kind of paper over a crack, caretaker manager. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, with extraordinary, ordinary record as a coach. Yeah. In any case. But there was something of a crest away. He was galvanising part of the experience.
He had an effect when he went in.
It did. They became a better club. Yeah. And probably a better side. Yeah. And stuff happened, and by lots of other club standards, and a lot of fans will know this. Yeah. It's failure by their own standards to a certain extent.
Right. We've got Nicky Gray on the phone from Manchester. Nicky, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
Morning,
yeah,
Mickey, all right,
not too
mate?
bad, Nicky. Nicky, obviously it's the worst kept secret in sport, but it sounds like it's an official decision being made.
Yeah, look, it had to happen, didn't it? I think the way that things have been going, it was just it was impossible for Ole to keep going, to be honest with you, and I think it's a real shame.
Yeah, it is. There's a sadness about it, isn't there?
Mickey, from the point of view, I just kind of touched on it there. Were they clinging on to him because he was this club legend, and they felt that he should get more time than perhaps any other manager would?
Possibly, and I think everybody's in the same agreement when we look from the outside in, because I think other managers would have easily lost their job a long time before Ole lost his job. Mm-hmm. You look at some of the performances against Liverpool at Old Trafford, and then the Manchester City derby just before the international break. Now, if anybody was going to lose their post, then I think it was time for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to maybe go within those two games. But they tried to hang on to it and wait until after the international break. But yesterday's performance and yesterday's result was probably the writing on the wall for Ole. And it's unfortunate. You know, you don't like to see managers lose their jobs. And he is a nice guy. You know, nobody ever criticised Ole. And every time he was asked a question in front of camera, he was always there to answer it. Well, the football at Man United this season has been so below par. And when you look at the other side, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City, there's a gulf. There's a huge gap between those three sides of Manchester United, and things needed to change.
Mickey, I would imagine the speculation will be feverish now on who's going to replace him. Have you got any idea? Do you know who do they go for?
Well, everybody that I think they wanted probably in managerial post. I think
Good point.
Conte was probably the one that I think they would have gone for. I think he's the type of guy who, you know, he takes no flack off any players, really, does he? And I think, you know, he organises teams and he's a born winner. But I think the speculation at the moment looks like it's Zinedine Zidane. Yeah. Brendan Rodgers' name's been mentioned as well, and I'm sure there's going to be a long list of managers. One that I'd throw in there, and it might be a little bit controversial, but you talk about organising a team and getting the best out of them, would be Roberto Mancini.
Oh,
the job that he's done at Italy.
Can you imagine him crossing the Great Divide? That would, I'd tell you what, Mickey. Looking for that would. I mean, it's a bit like Liverpool and Benitez at Everton. Yeah. That could be fun. Let me address something from the point of view of, as an ex-pro. Is this kind of so much towards the end? Well, it's not you, it's me. The players saying, "Oh, blame us," and I just wonder how much of that is actually the solid truth. How can you have such a talented, expensive group of footballers who apparently fall to pieces because they're not getting coached properly? Does that make sense?
No, and I think over the last couple of weeks, the players have actually came out and said, you know, it's not just the manager, it's the players themselves. And they have to have a stern look at themselves because they know themselves that they've underachieved this season. I mean, you think how much that squad actually costs at Manchester United. I mean, we're talking in the billions now. Yeah. And, you know, you've got England internationals, you've got, you know, Portuguese internationals, Ronaldo coming in, Jadon Sancho. So he got backed. He got backed in the transfer window. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was able to bring in the players that he wanted to bring in, but he just never found the 11 that was settled where he thought, right, this is it. This is the team that can take us to a title challenge. And the big problem is moving forward, they have to get it right in the next couple of weeks because I think they're 12 points behind Chelsea right now. They have to sort that out because their form has been absolutely terrible over the last couple of months.
Okay, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it's not like Eddie Howe going at Newcastle, perhaps with a plan B, which is how do I, galvanise them in the Championship. They are still in the top 6. What do you think would be a success for whoever comes in by the end of the season?
Well, they have to. It's Manchester United. They've got to try and finish in the top 4. They've got to finish in those Champions League spots. Now, they've got enough time to do that. There's only 12 games gone, so we've got 26 games to go. And whoever comes in has got to hit the ground running. There's got to be big changes there. You look at the work rate of the top sides, the clubs that I mentioned before, and Manchester United are way off that.
Yeah.
They have to get it right on that football field, and the manager who walks through that door now has got to earn the respect of those players, first and foremost, from the day one, and they have to start performing.
Very good point.
Mickey, thanks very much for joining us, mate. Top man.
Pleasure, guys.
Cheers, Mickey Green. I've got the official statement here, Mark. I'll read it out. Ollie will always be a legend at Manchester United, and it is with great regret that we have reached this difficult decision. While the past few weeks have been disappointing, they should not obscure all the work he has done over the past 3 years to rebuild the foundations for long-term success. Ollie leaves with our sincerest thanks for his tireless efforts as manager and our very best wishes for the future. His place in the club's history will always be secure, not just for his story as a player, but as a great man and a manager who gave us many great memories. He will forever be welcomed back at Old Trafford as part of the Manchester United family. Michael Carrick will now take charge of the team for forthcoming games, while the club looks to appoint an interim manager to the end of the season. It's interesting because my mates, my Mancunian friends were telling me yesterday, apparently he's done loads of work restructuring the scouting system and all kinds of stuff through the club. It's just a shame that ultimately, Mark, and you always say this, you're judged by results of the first team.
And that sentence in there, to a certain extent, it looks like, it could have been printed off for any, the first part printed off for anybody. But he's done over the past 3 years to rebuild the foundations for long-term success. May be perfectly true. Yeah. The fact that he was unable to then exploit it at this particular point in the long term. Yeah. Arguably, there are green shoots of recovery at the club, but they're barely visible if that's the case. But whoever comes in next has got an enormous talent pool to work with, and as you say, perhaps an infrastructure that really can push this club forward, as Mickey Gray says, pretty quickly as well.